Hey guys, so I do apologize if you hear any boom booms and everything. That is my phone going off. That basically is either text messaging or Facebook messaging, Instagram messaging, you name it. Also, I do apologize if you hear a big boom. That'll be my bank telling me something's been declined. So I do apologize for that in advance. I do apologize if I sound a little, coffee, if you will. Basically, it's allergies and everything. It's that time of year where you feel fine, but then all of a sudden there's something in your throat that makes you cough when you don't expect to, or it's your, sniffles because of allergies and stuff like that. So I do apologize about that in advance, but let's get on to the video. All right, so 14 years ago, probably 15 now, depending on when I recorded it, I talked about something that I recently obtained in a recent package opening, and I also showed it off in an update video, and that is, the complete series of The Secret World of Alex Mack. And I talked about this in a special edition cartoon flashback, like I said, about 14, 15 years ago. It's hard to believe that it's been that long. But this series, let's be honest, it was a very unique series. First of all, it was live action, but it dealt with the lead character, Alex Mack, being given unexpectedly because of an accidental spillage from a chemical company that her father works at. And I think even her mother kind of works at times, and her sister was being an intern at, I should say. But basically, she gets accidentally doused in this chemical. And what it does is it ends up giving her powers. And throughout the 4 seasons the show was on, her powers would evolve and get stronger and better and everything. And, well, graphically, the graphics, the special effects, the CGI and all that would get better too. So that was to go along with the evolving of her powers and stuff. But her powers basically were, her main ones, anyway, were she could levitate things with her finger. Like she could shoot out some lasers or something like that and move things with her finger or something like, some to that extent. She also had lightning she could shoot out sometimes if she wanted to, electricity and everything. But her main power, the main other power she had was the one that became the most popular with a lot of fans. And that was her ability to morph into liquid. That's right. Basically, she was able to melt into goo. And she would do this to get out of certain situations, either get out of danger or just get out of, a predicament. Like, she doesn't want to, stay in the house and be bored. So she decides to morph, melt down into goo and basically flow across the floor and through the cracks of the door and out to the outside. Or basically she wants to go to her room, so, for privacy, so she'll morph and then flow, across the floor and then up the stairs to her room and all that. And over time, that power of hers, I should say, would evolve. It would evolve even more to the point that in later seasons, I think around the second, third season, her sister would test out whether or not, maybe now, she could morph, not just herself, but morph, herself along with some inanimate objects and all that. And it proves to be a success. So this way, she has to, get to class real quickly, but she doesn't want to be looked at as being, being late or something like that. She can essentially, morph, herself along with her books or a binder, and basically, get to where she's got to go real quickly and all that, or get to her destination real quickly. And over time, also, this allowed her to not just, morph inanimate objects with her, but also morph people. And she did this, like in the first couple of seasons with her brother, with her friend Ray. She did it with Ray, if you will. And she did it with her sister. And I think there was an episode where she had to protect somebody and she morphed them along with her to protect them or something like that. Or she morphed into a wall of water or something like that. And she even, over time, would, I guess after talking with her sister Annie, her sister Annie, to make sure it was okay, she would, show people she knew she could trust or she's earned the trust of. She would show them her powers. She would show them what she could do. She would show a guy that she had a crush on, and I guess became a friend of hers that she could trust. He showed her. She trusted him to the point that she could show him her powers and all that, which she does. There's a new female friend of hers too, I think, that she trusted enough to where she did the same thing. And then there was this one guy who, she did reveal her powers to him because basically, unbeknownst to her, she ended up, morphing, in public. Now she thought she was in a decent hiding place, to do so. But what she didn't know is that this one kid who, became kind of a semi-regular and a best friend, not a, BFF like Alex is to him, but basically, a best friend, he can hang out and play sports with and stuff. Unbeknownst to her, when she thought, hey, she's in the clear, this one new kid who, like I said, became a semi-regular, can't think of his name, saw her morph. And he started to realize, wait a minute, could this be the kid they're looking for? And he wanted to see, whether or not, whether or not she was the kid or he was seeing things. And he'd always somehow see that she was doing these powers. So he decided one time, okay, what happens if you add water to her while she's morphing? Will it cause her to reform? And apparently it does. Apparently it did. And then eventually, like I said, he admitted to her, or at least she got him to acknowledge, hey, along with Ray, she got him to acknowledge that, yeah, I do know about your secret. And I think he was sworn to secrecy not to say anything. And he agreed, hey, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to do anything. Because I think him and another kid were mistaken for that kid that had the powers. And then that's how he was able to basically say, hey, basically say, yeah, I know, and I promise I'm not going to say anything. So yeah, basically that's the power that really evolved the most with her and became, along with the other powers, but also became the most popular among fans. And she really tested these powers out in the finale when she saved her family and everything. But basically not just save her family, but basically being a finale, they have to make everything come to pass. She finally has to get captured and everything. And so her family gets captured and she is forced, basically the plant that her father works at, the boss her father works for is, the villainess, if you will, the villainess and, of the show, the entire series. And she has an assistant villain and so on and so forth. So this Daniela, not Utron, Antoine, or whatever her name is, she basically has the family captured, the parents captured, and says, look, I am going to hurt them unless you show them who you are. And she ends up showing them, and it surprises them. And I think right then and there, it just comes, they start figuring out in their minds, this is how she was able to, get out of a situation when she wasn't supposed to. This is how she was able to sneak out, or how she was able to go from here to there. She would morph unbeknownst to them. And, basically she didn't want to tell them because of this reason. Now she does save them and herself, and with her secret now out there to not just her parents, but maybe everybody else, but mostly her parents, her father, who works for them or used to work for that place or that company, comes up with the antidote and gives it to her. He doesn't eject it in her. He just hands it to her and says, here it is. Here's the antidote that will take your powers away and make you normal again, so that way you're not hunted down anymore. But here's what's interesting about the finale. We don't know whether or not she took the. We don't know. Excuse me. We don't know whether or not, she took the antidote or not. It's basically up to our imaginations. We don't know. All we know is we see her talking with her sister Annie, who came back upon hearing this. And basically, it's like, obviously Annie had, some explaining to do, like, yeah, I knew about it. and all that, but I didn't want to tell you guys because, I worked for the place, and if I would have said something, it would have gotten out, or they would have questioned you, Dad, and all that, as to why you creating an antidote for the chemical, So obviously she had some explaining to do, but again, the way it ends, is, we don't know whether or not she took, the antidote because, it kind of ends in a way to where you think she's taking the antidote, or, you think she's taking the antidote so she can be normal, or it ends in a way to you're like thinking, okay, maybe she didn't take it and she's probably just saving it for when she's ready to, and she just wants to enjoy having her powers right now, have some fun with her powers right now, with the idea, as far as I know, I've got to go back and watch the finale, with the idea that she doesn't have to worry about being chased anymore by this Daniela girl or this Daniela lady or her Victor, whatever his name is, Vince Victor cohort. She doesn't have to worry about that anymore because I think they got arrested. But again, that's how the series ends. The series ends basically on a, not a cliffhanger, but more of a did she or did she not, kind of scenario. Like, did she take the antidote or did she not take the antidote? That makes you, it makes you wonder, it makes you think. And this is why a lot of fans would love to see a continuation of the series, because they want, some kind of conclusion. They want to know, hey, did she take it or did she not take it? Or if she, and if she didn't, is she holding on to it to when the time is ready for her to, indeed take it? We don't know. But yeah, it ends in that way. Now, what's interesting is she did have a book series. I have a couple of the books, if you will. I do have a couple of the books. But, it did have a book series where some of the stories were adapted from episodes and some of them were original stories. And some of these original stories you would wish got turned into episodes. But, when I tell you, you wish some of them did get turned into episodes, but they never did. Now, the impact that Alex Mack, The Secret World of Alex Mack, has had, as a show among the fans is, huge. It is really huge. And I know that's hard to believe, but it is. There are some artists and even fanfic writers that have continued the story. And most of them continue it based on, the idea that they believe at the end of the series, even though she had the antidote, she didn't take it. She didn't take it whatsoever. That she may still have it, just in case or when she's ready, but she has yet to take it. So, so people have basically done web comics. Some people have done fanfic stories based around, that possibility. One of the more prominent ones, is done by a DeviantArt artist, by an artist basically on DeviantArt primarily called Corona, DeviantArt and Patreon today. The name, I might butcher it, so I do apologize. The username is Coronan, if you will. And basically, their forte or their main trope when it comes to doing art and sometimes web comics and everything is women turning into goo or slug monsters, whatever. And one of the primary things that they work on is kind of like a web comic series on occasions, as well as just individual artwork of a continuation of Alex Mack. But now Alex has basically evolved so much with the powers, because I think in their minds she didn't take the antidote. She had evolved so much with her powers that she's basically become mostly all liquid, mostly all liquid for the time being, but she can change back temporarily back to human form or something like that. And so it's really interesting. They even have the villainous Daniela character come back in the webcomic, and apparently she's affected herself with something similar to where she can try to, make it more possible for her to capture Alex Mack who goes under a different name now, to a kind of a code name, if you will, to try to basically not only get her powers, but to essentially, from what I'm noticing, the last time I looked at it, to basically not only get her powers, but to absorb Alex into her. Because again, she has a similar power now, where she's kind of all gunky and all gooey and everything, but she's able to realize, hey, she's got that power very similar, if not more so, than Alex does, and she can possibly absorb Alex into her and take the power from her and make Alex one with her or something like that. So basically they're continuing it, from what I understand, based on, in my opinion, based on them looking at the fact that they believe she didn't take the antidote. She didn't take the antidote, whatsoever. So there's that. And then, like I said, there's some fanfic art out there that does the same thing, that goes in the same direction. So it's really, it's really left a legacy, if you will, left its mark, if you will, among the fans and among those that like to do web comics and fan fiction. It has really left its mark, in my opinion. Now, again, fans would like to see it make a comeback down the line. They would. They would like to see it, make a comeback to where we get like some kind of continuation. Maybe Alex and her friends are in college, and basically she reveals to them that she didn't really take the antidote, and maybe she reveals it to Annie that she didn't take the antidote. But just like before, in a callback to the original series, they could probably have them all sworn to secrecy, from the parents, because the parents, for all they know, or at least the dad that is, for all he knows, she basically did take the antidote. Now, there were some unique episodes, there's no doubt. There was a body swap episode, actually, where she ended up swapping bodies with her mom. And I guess her mom, and the reason for this is basically Alex had morphed into puddle form, and her mom accidentally stepped on her and absorbed her, and she absorbed her mom, and they basically took on each other, and they basically lived out each other's life. And I think the mom had the powers now because she was in Alex's body or something like that. Oh no, it did. She did have the powers. I don't know if she had fun with them and all that, but she did have the powers or something like that. I don't really recall. I got to go back and watch the episode, once again. But they had that kind of episodes. They had Ray, her friend, basically have a dream where he had the powers and all that, but he didn't. And so on and so forth. So they had all kinds of different scenarios to where her powers would be showcased in a way to where it would show, her abilities to, because she also had super strength, believe it or not. But she also would shoot out electricity, like I said, and it would get stronger at times. Sometimes she would sneeze and it would cause some kind of reaction and all that. But the other thing, too, about her morphing powers as well is she was able to blend in with other elements of water. Like she was at a pool party in one episode, and she notices no one's looking, so she decides, and this is in the first season, I believe. She decides to morph, right then and there, and merge with the water, and basically get at this one kid who's being like a jerk or a bully. And then I don't know if it's in the first season or second season, she decides to merge with a water substance in a fountain and basically, make it into some kind of like design, some kind of figure, some kind of like design or artistic look, if you will, to like the water comes up and then it kind of circles around and touches each other. So she basically merged with that to basically lend her mass to it. So so this woman, friend of the family, I guess, can get the Woman of the Year Woman of the Year award, or basically prove her worth or something like that. So there's that. There's one episode where she sneaks into this one family's house because she was watching this one kid, and this one kid's a brat, and she ends up merging with the fish tank, if you will. And then as she's trying to slip out, all of a sudden she comes in contact with this young girl that she's, that's a brat in the show, and she has to watch her. And this one girl just starts jumping on her and everything, that thinking she's a regular puddle, she can splash around, and that's not the case. And it freaks out the girl when it's not splashing, but she hears this ow, 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 and everything. So Anyway, though, yeah, her morphing powers have been, have evolved a lot in the show, and basically to the point that she can add her mass to other watery mass, and help that out in the long run too. And overall, though, like I said, this is why fans want to see the show come back, as well, because they want to see more of that, but they also want to see a conclusion of whether or not she took the antidote, and if not, kind of have it like be a callback to where, okay, Annie knows, Ray knows, the other friends that kept the secret previously know, but the parents won't, because the parents, as far as they're concerned, are all they know and are aware of is the fact that she did take the antidote. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what they do in the future if they decide to bring it back. If they do. And if they do bring it back, I think they should go animated form. I'm not talking CGI, but if they want to, that's fine. But I think they should go the route where it's a blending of 2D and CG, the 2D CG kind of stuff, to where it looks like it's 2D, but it's actually CG, and all that. I think that's what they should do if they bring it back. And they could do a lot more if they go that route, they go the animated route. They could do a lot more with her powers and everything, especially the morphine and everything. And they can even have her, I should say, evolve even more in powers, like discover powers she didn't even know until she became a certain age. So I think that's what they should do if they want to bring this back, because a lot of fans do want to see it brought back. The other thing, too, is unfortunately, it's not on Paramount Plus. I think it's on Apple TV Plus, but you got to buy episodes. I think the same thing with Prime Video. You got to buy the episodes and everything, if not buy the seasons. So yeah, if you want to see the episodes in a digital streaming way, you got to buy them. You got to buy them, unfortunately. Unfortunately, streaming wise, as far as I know, nobody has it on their platform. Now, you can get the episodes through other means as well if you don't want to pay for them. You can, as I did, buy the complete series set on DVD, which should get a Blu-ray release. Mill Creek, get on that. You could, to me, you could do that, I should say. But also you can go to internetarchive.org and you can find the episodes there. All you have to do is go to Google, type in Secret World of Alex Mack, Internet Archive, and you should get the episodes there. Now, if you're just looking into the morphine clips and all that, unfortunately, because of YouTube's algorithm and YouTube's restrictions and copyright stuff, you're going to get some, but not all of them. So my suggestion is to go to dailymotion.com, Google dailymotion.com, and Captain TF101, I believe, or just Captain TF1 on Dailymotion, or I think it's Captain TF101 on both YouTube and Dailymotion. But go there through Dailymotion, go to Captain TF101, and you should be able to find the clips that were not on YouTube. Because they do have clips of her morphine, not just herself, but her sister and Ray and her parents. So go and find that. Go there if you want to, and if you're into more of the morphine clips and everything. But overall, looking back on it, it's hard to believe, but you know what this year is? This past weekend, not this upcoming one, but this past weekend marks 27 years. Yeah, 27 years since I graduated from high school, and it also marks this year overall 27 years since the series ended. And they did have a reunion a couple of years ago as part of some kind of festival or convention in Los Angeles. You had a decent crowd around to, ask questions, hear stories, but you also had people just walking about. So it's one of those events to where you had the Q&A panel, but basically people would be like walking, being like, oh, this is the cast of Alex Mack. Oh. But others that would be interested and be fans would be like, oh, it's the cast, let's go over here, and everything. So let's go here and talk and see what they have to say. So it was one of those events, and I thought it was decent. I thought it was good to see them all together again. But overall, like I said, this series definitely left a very, I guess you could say a very imprintive mark, if you will, because it's one of the series that, in my opinion, has really gotten people like Desi Arts, Desi Arts, that's Dezzie Arts, Desi Arts. It's gotten people like Trouble TRO, people like Joven16, Nexi Comics, and so on to get into doing these stories where the main female characters have these kind of powers. And that one of the primary transformations is just to melt, morph into goo. So I think, obviously, I'm getting a little tongue-tied here, guys. But I think, honestly, in my opinion, that's where they got the influence from shows like Alex Mack, if not primarily from Alex Mack, if you know what I mean. But anyway, yeah, that's all I can really say on it. Hopefully it does make a comeback, in the future, maybe potentially, like I said, an animated form where it can, allow for more leniency, more creativity and imaginativeness, when it comes to Alex Mack's powers. Maybe it's an animated continuation of the original series. And like I said, they're in college now and all that. Maybe that will happen. And hopefully Paramount will get the license, the distributing license, to put the series on the streaming platform. Yes, like I said, you can find it on internetarchive.org, and you can buy the complete series on DVD. You can do that. But I think because, again, it was a Nickelodeon series, they should find a way to get through the legal mumbo jumbo and get the rights to the series to be streamed on their platform. But that's all I can say, guys, on my thoughts on The Secret World of Alex Mack. Basically 14 to 15 years after I did my original cartoon flashback special edition on it. Let me know what your thoughts are overall on the series. What did you think of it as a whole? Did you enjoy it? What did you like mostly when it came to Alex Mack's powers and everything? And do you think the show should be continued in the near future, maybe in animated form where they could do a lot more with her powers and maybe even have her develop newer powers as well? Let me know what your thoughts are, guys, down below. Comment if you like the video, ring the bell for notifications, subscribe to the channel, share the video. Also, guys, click on the links in the description to find my content elsewhere outside of YouTube. Be greatly appreciated. And until next time, guys, I will talk to you all later. But again, give me your thoughts overall on the series. What did you like about it? What did you like about the powers she had? And until next time, I will talk to you all later.